Go north.
Fire. I arrived on the ground yesterday, as Karine said, at the direction of the president. I had an opportunity to meet with Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass. We discussed what their immediate needs were, as well as began the conversation about what their recovery needs are going to be. The governor, the mayor, and I had an opportunity just before this to also brief the president and the vice president about what their concerns are, about what their needs are going to be, and provided an update on the current status of the firefighting operations. Yesterday, I also had an opportunity to receive briefings from the incident command posts at the Palisades fire as well as the Eaton fire. And I think the most important thing that I want to make sure I continue to get across to everyone is this situation is still very dangerous. It is still very dynamic. The winds have died down today, but as I just got a weather briefing at the county EOC, the winds are going to increase again in the coming days. And so people still need to stay vigilant. They need to listen to their local officials. They need to heed their advice so they can keep themselves and their families safe. I also want to just take a minute to commend all of the amazing and heroic work that the firefighters are doing around the clock to fight these fires. They have been working night and day. I had a chance to speak with several of them, some of them whose homes have also been lost or their families have had to evacuate. Yet they still show up every day supporting their communities, trying to keep them safe. And I just want to say thank you. I want to thank all of them for their heroic efforts because they are making a difference. Now, while the National Interagency Fire Center continues to provide resources to support CAL FIRE and the Los Angeles County and City Fire Departments, FEMA is also supporting the recovery efforts. We're supporting those that have been impacted by this fire. I even met with the SBA administrator here just briefly, who is also here to support them, businesses and individuals that have been impacted by these fires. With the quick major disaster declaration, residents can now register and begin their recovery journey. Some of the immediate things that we can provide to them are to cover the costs that they're incurring as they have been evacuated, helping to support what their longer-term shelter and housing needs are going to be. We can also help support crisis counseling and disaster unemployment. These are just a few of the programs that we have. We have many more, and I encourage everyone to begin that process by registering now. Recovery from these fires is going to be complex. I've seen many disasters throughout my 4 years in this role. This is certainly one of the worst that I have seen. And the debris removal alone is going to be one of the major things that we have to accomplish, that the state has to accomplish to get this recovery journey started. And that's why when President Biden authorized 100% reimbursement for the first 180 days is really going to set the stage to jumpstart this recovery for these communities. I had a chance to drive through some of the communities that were impacted as well. And it's not just the homes that are lost. We've seen schools that have been destroyed, businesses, small businesses, religious institutions. These are things that we are going to be able to help with temporary facilities like temporary schools to help get children back into the schoolhouse, but also any other emergency measures as they begin the work of permanent repair. Thousands of homes have been destroyed. And we continue to hear the numbers change, but know that this is going to be a long-term recovery for all of these individuals that have been impacted. And as I told the governor and the mayor yesterday and today, I assured them that our programs, our staff, the entire federal family are going to be here with them, alongside them, helping them achieve the outcomes that they need to not just rebuild these communities, but also rebuild them in a way that's going to make them stronger and more resistant to the types of weather events that they have been experiencing. This recovery journey is going to be long, but we are going to be there with them to support them every step of the way. And with that, Corinne, I'm happy to take some questions.
Thank you so much, Administrator. Go ahead, Steve.
Thanks, Corinne. Thanks, Administrator. I hope you could speak to whether your agency has enough money currently to fund the immediate response needs, or is there a need to go to Congress quickly to get additional funds? And then separately, 10 days out from the presidential transition, what steps are underway at FEMA to ensure that what has been done so far and what's going to be done in the coming days is sustained at the career level and beyond, into the new administration? Thank you.
Yeah, with the recent supplemental, FEMA received $27 billion. And so we are now able to continue to support the ongoing recovery efforts for all of the disasters that we've been supporting, to include now the immediate response and the initial recovery efforts that are going to be needed here in California. So we're very grateful for the bipartisan support from Congress to give us that additional funding so we can meet the needs of the individuals that have been impacted. And as far as going through the transition, we have an amazing, dedicated workforce of women and men that are going to be able to continue to support them. Our regional administrator here has worked many fires across several different administrations, and we are going to work day in and day out to continue to support them through the authorities that are given to us through the Stafford Act.
Thank you, Administrator, for taking our questions. I wonder, realistically, how quickly will people be able to obtain these temporary living quarters? What are you doing to set those up? Where are you setting them up? And how are you making sure to get in contact with people that may need those temporary shelters?
Yeah, so the first step that everybody needs to do, there's two things. They need to register for assistance with FEMA so they get in our system and we can continue to work with them on a case-by-case basis, because we know that everybody's going to have an individual and unique need, and they need to contact their insurance company because their insurance company may also provide alternate living expenses. We have a suite of tools, and one of the biggest tools and the best resources we have is reimbursing individuals for either the hotel costs that they're experiencing right now, or if they find a place to rent, reimbursing them for rental assistance. Given where we're at right now, we know that there's going to be a lot of rental resources, and that's going to be the best resource and the best tool that we have to support the families that have been impacted. But we have other tools in our toolbox. And so, again, we want to work with everybody individually because we know that everybody's situation is going to be different, and we're going to apply the right tool for their particular situation.
Thank you, Administrator. I know you can't obviously put a dollar sign on this, but can you just help us put into perspective a bit how you think the cost of this may compare to the cost of other recent natural disasters? And I'm hoping you could also comment on some misinformation that's out there. We've seen these erroneous evacuation orders and how concerned you are that may lead to people to not responding to or not paying close enough attention to actual real alerts.
Yeah, it's really hard right now on the cost of the disaster to put a number on it because we haven't been able to assess how much of the infrastructure has been damaged. I mean, we know the thousands of homes that have been impacted, but the real cost of these disasters comes from how much of the actual infrastructure has been damaged, the roads, the water system, the power, but also the soft costs and the economic impact. We know that this is going to be billions. And so we really want to continue to focus right now on whatever we can do to continue to support California in getting this fire suppressed and starting this recovery process. And again, thanks to the bipartisan support of Congress, we have enough funding to support those recovery efforts and these response efforts. And as far as the misinformation and the alert that went out, I mean, we want to make sure people are getting timely inaccurate information. And I will defer to the county for the specifics on what they're doing as far as that alert, but know that it's part of our wireless emergency alert platform that FEMA offers to state and locals, and we are providing technical assistance to them to make sure we can help them understand what happened and ensure that it doesn't happen again, because we have to be able to send out accurate information so we can give people the right information and they know to believe it.
Good job.
Thanks, Green. Administrator, the president was referring in the Oval earlier and yesterday to, I guess, some misinformation about the fire hydrants. Can you just spell it out clearly? Is there a water shortage? Is there an issue with water? And if not, what's the issue?
Yeah, I mean, I would really defer to the city and the county for the specifics, but what I have been briefed is that it was an overload of the system, right? There were so many simultaneous fires that happened at once. There was multiple firefighting resources that were utilizing and using the water system to put out these fires, and it put a strain on the system. And it takes time for that system to then regenerate. But the specifics on it, I really just want to make sure that you talk with them. As we heard from, the Los Angeles City Fire Chief yesterday, they plan for this. They have other resources available with water tenders, and now we have the ability to fly the aircraft into these communities to help put that fire out. And so it really, you talk about the multiple simultaneous fires that started, and it just put a strain on the system from my understanding.
Just one follow-up on the coordination with the incoming administration. Are you speaking to anyone yourself on the transition, and has the misinformation aspect come up in those discussions?
So we have a whole team dedicated to be working with the transition team, and they're providing regular briefings to them on a daily basis. And so we're providing whatever information that they ask for.
President Biden committed to 180 days of 100% match on recovery funds. Just technically, how is he able to commit to 6 months when he's only going to be in office for 10 more days? Is that locked in, or could that change if the next administration has a different idea?
This is a practice that many administrations have utilized to help support the immediate needs in the response to one of these major catastrophic disasters. And what we want to be able to do is recognize the catastrophic impact of that. And the president has the authority through the statute, through law, to be able to commit this amount of funding to support the recovery efforts. I would hope that we look at this, as I think Corinne said earlier, that these are communities that have had a catastrophic impact, and that we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can as a federal family to support them on this recovery journey. The statute, the law, allows us to do exactly what we did and allows the president to make that determination, and this is what they need. They need this support in order to facilitate the recovery that's going to have to happen.
And just a quick follow, does that mean that it can't be rolled back?
I mean, I'm certain that, anybody can make a determination on if they want to do something or not, but this was done according to the statute, and I would think that the statute would say that this is the direction that needs to happen and that it shouldn't be rolled back.
This is Arlette Sines with CNN. In your conversations with any of the local officials, have any of them expressed concerns about the possibility that that funding could be rolled back?
Well, I think I've gotten the question from several people about what's going to happen over the transition. And the same thing that I've said to you is that we have dedicated career women and men that have been supporting disaster response for everywhere around the country, not just this administration, but the previous administration and every administration before that. And the actions that we have taken in this administration are no different than the types of declarations that have happened before. And I, want to assure them that the law, the Stafford Act, that gives us the authority to provide these declarations is one that has withstood since 1979, and we will continue to implement it as directed by the law.
Kelly.
Administrator Kelly O'Donnell from NBC. Do you have concerns about the inventory of available housing for people who've been displaced and for the length of time it would take for rebuilding? Obviously, it's going to be some time before you can even clear parcels that people may own or what have you. Do you see almost an extinction of some of these communities for a period of time?
So we're going to work with the state to understand what the housing stock is, because as I said, one of the best resources that we have is our rental assistance, and we want to get people into that longer-term temporary situation as quickly as possible so they can continue on with their lives. We're going to have to do an assessment to see what the availability is and then determine if we're going to need to bring in other tools to help support the ongoing housing requirement for these communities. But know that our goal is to keep people in these communities. We do not want them to move far from their communities. This is where they work. This is where their schools are. This is where their family, their religious institutions are. And so our goal is to find everything we can as close to their communities so they can keep the community part of them intact, right? The houses and the buildings might be gone, but the community stays, right? That community spirit will always be there. And so that is what our goal is, and that's what we'll work with the state and the county to achieve.
Okay. In the back, go ahead.
Thanks, Administrator. The President previewed that the death toll was likely to increase. Does the federal government have a handle on how many missing people there are, as well as any advice you have for people dealing with air quality issues at the moment?
So I didn't hear the second question, but to answer the first question, that's something I would have to defer to the state. All of those numbers come from the coroner to determine the number of fatalities, and the number missing is something that they'll track. We're just going to continue to support them if they need resources to help with that. And then what was your second question?
Just about advice that you would have for people dealing with air quality issues in the area?
With their what issues?
Air quality issues in the area.
Oh, air quality.
What's your
Air quality
advice to
issues.
folks on the
Again, listening to your local officials, there's definitely air quality issues around the area. And, you know, the beauty of the wind dying down is that they can get better control over the fires, but it also doesn't blow the smoke out. And so there are definitely a lot of concerns from across the area here about what the air quality is going to look like. And so they need to make the decisions that's best for them. And I know that the departments of public health at both the county and the state are providing information and guidance, and I would have them listen to them for what the best resources are for them to protect themselves from the air quality impacts from these fires.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Administrator. I'm curious, as you're briefing the incoming administration, are there specific steps you are recommending that they take in this response, given how long-term it's likely going to be?
Yeah, that's something that, I mean, our career staff that are here on the ground in California that are going to be back at headquarters, they will continue to work through all of the requirements to support the recovery efforts. And as the incoming administration comes on board, we will give them an update as to where we're at with the status and any challenges that we're finding and the direction and the vision that we need to do to achieve the governor, the mayor's outcomes for this disaster recovery, but all of the disaster recoveries, right? We had 179 disaster declarations just last year alone. And so our team that has been working these day in and day out for the last 4 years will continue to do so within the new administration.
Okay, last question.
Thank you, Corinne. So as the rebuilding gets underway, will there be any requirements around fire-resistant building materials to be used and other safety measures that, you know, construction folks should adhere to?
I just want to make sure I heard the question. As the rebuilding begins, are there going to be requirements on how they rebuild? Did I hear that right? I'm sorry.
Yes, on fire resistance.
Yeah, fire resistance.
Yeah, so one of the things that we can do to help support these communities is we do have mechanisms through our mitigation programs, whether that's in the public infrastructure that's getting rebuilt or through our hazard mitigation grants that the state can offer. As they rebuild, we want them to rebuild in a way that helps make them more fire resistant. And so we encourage the use of that flexibility within our authorities to make sure that these communities are stronger to face any future events that they might see like this.
Okay. All right, Administrator, since we have 10 days left, I wanted to be sure to say thank you so much for your service. It's been an honor to work with you. Please stay safe in California. And again, thank you so much.
Thanks, Corinne. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, I have actually two more things, and then I'll get to questions. So I'll quickly turn to Venezuela, where Maduro once again demonstrated his complete disregard for democratic norms and proceeded with his
Following the White
illegitimate
House briefing there, you heard the head of FEMA giving a quick brief on what is available to folks now that will be applying for FEMA public assistance. It looks like right now, if you do apply, the director there is saying there will be assistance for hotels and other lodging expenses. That since President Biden signed that emergency declaration that we covered earlier this week, it's basically unlocked a host of resources now that folks can apply to, folks that have been impacted by the fires, temporary housing repair, replacement of homes, temporary housing units. You heard the director there talking about rental units that are available, unemployment insurance. Apparently, too, folks will have the ability to get quick cash if they need it right away, that will be made available. So the FEMA director advising the best way to see how to apply is either go online to disasterassistance.com, or you can call the FEMA helpline at 1-800-621-3362. Again, there's disasterassistance.gov, or you can call the FEMA hotline that you can see right there on your screen, 1-800-621-3362. There's also a FEMA app that you can download on your mobile device and figure out everything that is available to you right now if you need it. And don't forget the Red Cross on the scene all throughout Los Angeles as well. They are always there to provide any type of assistance in addition. All right, so as you know, 10 people have lost their lives so far in these unprecedented fires. Then they're still ripping through the Los Angeles area. I mean, lives, homes, historic landmarks, they've all been destroyed. I'm glad you're continuing following along with us for our live coverage, because we'll be staying on this story clearly until bringing you more answers and support as you've been wanting more details about the fires and also how to get assistance. But you've got two major fires right now that are still burning across Southern California and the coast. And for the first time in 3 days, despite just the insurmountable conditions, firefighters have been able to contain small sections of the Palisades and Eaton fires. The sheriff imposing a nighttime curfew as well for areas around those blazes, hopefully in an attempt to stop the looting that has now been taking place. A couple dozen people already arrested for looting in these areas. Structures gone or heavily damaged, up to 10,000 now. We've been reporting it's some of the wealthiest and most sought after neighborhoods now just reduced to rubble. The tragedy quickly becoming one of the worst natural disasters in U.S. history. In total, nearly 400,000 residents have been impacted by evacuation orders or warnings. Residents leaving their homes and all their precious valuables behind, wondering if they'll have anything to come back to.
I don't know how we're going to come back from this. I don't even know where to start.
It's apocalyptic. It's like someone's dropped a bomb. There's cars burnt out. There's ash everywhere. We were thinking it was going to be bad, but I think we both had no idea how bad it was.
It was beyond anything I ever thought I would have to face in my life. It's almost like at this stage of my life, when I thought I was at the end of the marathon, I'm at the beginning of a new marathon.
Our Jacqueline Lee remains on the ground there in Pacific Palisades and brings us more at this moment. Jacqueline, what do you know?
What's really striking is amidst all of this, it is so beautiful watching this sunrise over here in Malibu. But as you can see, all of the houses, the destruction, it's still smoldering, it's still smoking. First responders rushing to try to get the power back on for residents whose homes are still standing. You can see, look at this burnt out car, my goodness. It pushed it all the way into where the homes are. Here you can see all the electrical crews, the gas crews are going down Pacific Coast Highway. And here, I mean, look at this coastline transformed as a result of this fire. It is still smoldering. Look, I mean, the house has taken off their platforms, juxtaposed with the very peaceful looking waves. The fact that this fire burned so far south that the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, is the only thing that stopped it from burning, is just truly incredible. Residents here tell me they know that there's fires in Los Angeles, but they never thought it would come all the way over here. I mean, look at this. Look at the garage. The fire pushed everything forward. These trees, these palm trees, burnt to a crisp. Malibu's coastline is transformed forever. I mean, it looks like a bomb was dropped on it. There is nothing left. These used to be multi-million-dollar mansions. I mean, look at all of this. Right over here, we are looking at someone's living room. I'm looking at a sink that was burnt. And now we're looking directly onto the beach.
All right, Jacqueline, thank you so much. Well, as we keep mentioning, it's not just the homes and humans that have been devastated by this natural disaster. There are horses, dogs, cats, birds. I mean, you name it. All animals have been impacted by these wildfires. But as you can tell by the piles of crates and mounds of pet supplies just outside Pasadena Humane Society right there in Los Angeles, clearly the community is coming together and doing everything it can to help all our furry friends. Right now, the Pasadena Humane Society has currently taken in more than 400 animals due to the wildfires, whether they were brought in by their owners or just found injured or displaced. Their services are truly needed at this moment, with the ICU currently at full capacity. Joining me now is Dia Duvernette, the president and CEO of the Pasadena Humane Society. And Dia, first of all, thank you so much for letting our Christian Cordero be there at your area or at your center right now and bring us up to date on all the animals. But now that we have you, can you give us specifics about the types of animals that have been brought in? And was it because of injuries? Was it owners needing to leave their pets somewhere so they could flee somewhere to stay? Just bring us up to date.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for bringing attention to the animal needs in this horrific crisis. This has been a human and animal tragedy of unimaginable scale. And our disaster response has been in various stages over the past 3 days. Our shelter's about 10 blocks south of the evacuation area. So Tuesday night, Wednesday, as we were taking in animals for families fleeing the evacuation area with no place to take their animals, we were also at a point of not knowing whether we would have to evacuate the shelter ourselves. Thank goodness we were not impacted by the fire itself. We have a lot of debris, a lot of ash. The air quality is horrendous, but we are no longer in danger of fire risk here at the shelter. Our initial response was to bring in those animals for people who were evacuating. And as you mentioned, we've taken in over 400 animals. The next day, we started to see more injured animals being brought in, stray animals that folks had found. We were so heartwarmed to see that neighbors were sometimes rescuing pets of their neighbors who were not at home and bringing them to us. We've now started to see some people who had temporarily sheltered their pets who are coming back to reclaim them. But we do know that many people who fled do not have homes to go back to, and this may turn into a longer-term sheltering need for some of those families. We, this morning, are now turning to yet another phase of this disaster response, which is search and rescue. We've just been allowed by CAL FIRE to send some strike teams into the affected areas, along with lots of support from state and national animal welfare organizations that we've brought in to assist. Right now, we have the ASPCA, American Humane, San Diego Humane, and one other shelter that's escaping me right now. On ground, we've just started to send out teams to start to get a sense of what this is going to be. We imagine that initially we are going to be bringing back remains. We're going to be scanning them for microchips and keeping them here and contacting families so that families can come claim their pet remains for private burial if they would like. We also then think we will be finding some animals that have survived, especially cats are pretty resilient. We're going to start this evening with some traps in the area to try to lure these cats who are going to be very frightened into these traps. And then in the morning, we can go and pick the traps up, bring the cats back, and provide them with the services that they need. We're also getting more and more calls about injured animals. Mostly we are seeing burns, we're seeing singed paws, we're seeing smoke inhalation, singed whiskers. We are seeing animals severely dehydrated. So our ICU is providing oxygen and hydration and burn care for these animals. And as our initial strike teams are going out into the community, we'll be calling in more strike teams to help with this effort. This morning, it was very challenging for us because the National Guard had been called in due to looting. We had staff members who were living in areas that the National Guard was not letting people in or out. Some of our staff members are not able to get out of their homes to get to the shelter to start working to help. I think that that's an issue that's been resolved. But honestly, as I was waiting to come into this interview, I was learning some information from the coverage you were providing right before me. Honestly, it's helping me to understand even more the breadth of the disaster, because really we have been focusing around the clock on the immediate needs of the animals in our community, and taking it just one step at a time, but trying to stay also ahead of it. You mentioned all of the donations. We are so grateful to the generosity of our community and the outpouring of support. But right now, our primary need is monetary donations. We need to keep our facility free of these supplies so that we can be responding to the animals and the pet owners coming to us in need. We've partnered with other organizations now where supplies can be dropped off and also distributed to people who are in need. But right now, monetary donations are the way that people can help the most so that we can source the supplies that we need as we need them.
Well, you have got your hands full, and you're doing an incredible job there at the Pasadena Humane Society, more than 400 animals. And I didn't even think about the fact that you'd have to do recovery and remains and have to deal with that aspect. It's just heartbreaking. But what you are doing for those sweet animals that just don't know where to go or needed a place while their owners figure out their own lives is just such a beautiful gift to the community. Dia, thank you so much, and we'll stay in close touch. And thank you for letting us cover this and also have a correspondent there. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, we've got new video now of the moment that New Orleans police actually got into a shootout with the terror suspect on Bourbon Street. We've got the just released body cam footage, and you'll see it.
Savory, juicy, and hold up, it's got Hidden Valley Ranch seasoning? Nice. Crispy, zesty, ranchy perfection. Hidden Valley Ranch, only serious about flavor.
Hey, good morning, America. Good morning, America.
Good morning, America. You don't just see it, you feel it.
I'm in. I'm in.
I'm in too. I am in. I'm in.
I'm in too.
I'll be here.
America's #1 most watched daytime talk show is ABC's The View.
You all heard it here first. This is going to be must-see TV. And so much could happen. That's why it's called The what? The View.
Amanda Riley was a mother, wife. She got diagnosed with cancer.
There's all these pictures of her in the hospital with IVs, tubing.
But she was a liar.
Why would somebody fake cancer?
Scamanda premieres January 30th on ABC.
Well, police in New Orleans are releasing body cam video now from one of the officers who shot the suspect in that New Year's Day terror attack. We want to warn you, the video you are about to see is disturbing and was given to the media by the New Orleans Police Department, who did make their own edits. Here you go. Wow. Our Morgan Norwood has been following this since we just got the video in. What more are we learning? Why do you think the department decided to release this? Give us everything you know, Morgan.
Yeah, well, Kira, this video basically gives us a clearer picture of everything that unfolded during that chaotic incident on New Year's Day, that truck ramming, and then that subsequent shootout. I do want to point out that it's a compilation video.